everyone, Alec Elger the SideQuest Gamer here, and welcome to my first marathon of 2016 where I'll be reviewing the Mega Man X cartridge trilogy, which will include X1, X2, and X3. I've waited so long to review these games because, well, I was kind of a classic Mega Man purist back then, and while I did enjoy these games for what they were, I deemed them inferior to the classics. But now that I'm older, let me take a look at these games for what they are, what they offer to the franchise. Are they as good as everyone says they are? Well, let's take a look. First off, yes, I am doing kind of a machete order when marathoning these Mega Man games, meaning I'll be playing X1 through X3, then go back to Mega Man 1 through 6 as a flashback to how the Maverick Wars even started with the popularizing of robots and androids, then finish it all off with Mega Man's X4 through X5. I really have no plans on doing X6 anytime soon since I heard really bad things about it, and from what I've played, I was not impressed. Although, I do plan on reviewing that to bridge it to the eventual Mega Man Zero quadrilogy, but even before that, I'll review Mega Man 7 through 10. I won't even review the classic games immediately after the X trilogy, as that is scheduled for a June release of 2016. I know this is an unconventional method of reviewing these games, as most people will go in chronological order, but I like this new take because no one else has done it before, and it'll help me avoid Mega Man burnout. But without further ado, let's jump into the first Mega Man X game. Mega Man X was developed and published by Capcom. This new series was conceived by franchise creator Keiji Inafune, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, his protege Hayato Kaji, and really the veteran team that worked on the majority of the classic Mega Man games leading up to that point. For this new series, they brainstormed ideas for the gameplay, the visual style, and especially in terms of character designs, as well as the storyline. The team wanted to branch out from previously established tradition from the classic series. Remember that light-hearted story that had really no overarching continuity except Dr. Wily is trying to take over the world in every installment? Well, that's gone. Now it's more like Sigma has already taken over the world, and X has to stop him or all is lost. Remember the Robot Masters having man after it, like Dustman, Shadow Man, or Iceman? That's gone too. Now instead of man-dubbed androids that you have to fight, we have androids resembling anthropomorphic creatures like Storm Eagle or Chill Penguin, and in the later entries, Wire Sponge and Duff McWaywood, instead of the humanoid-type robot opponents. And remember how the classic series had 8-bit graphics? Well, it's a given that they would have to update the visual style to meet the standards of the Super Nintendo's hardware capabilities. Although while the classic Mega Man games had kind of a cutesy art style to fit the jovial tone of each game, the character designs for the X series were revamped to be all cool and edgy. The bosses of the main 8 levels are more menacing in appearance, the hero characters are designed to look cool and noticeably have more detail to their armor compared to the classic series, and the level's visual style vary from having a more pessimistic futuristic style, vibrant caves, levels that take place in the sky, or taking place inside of a factory or facility. And let us not forget the evolution that was the gameplay. Sure, while the Charged Mega Buster, I mean X-Buster, was not an entirely new concept and has been introduced in Mega Man 4, it was a staple for the rest of the X series. Not only that, but Mega Man can slide slowly down on the wall, enabling him to wall jump. Yeah, you know the wall jump in Super Mario 64? Well, Mega Man X did that before it was cool. And the best part is you can add more abilities as you progress through the game. Do you think your armor sucks? Find one of the 4 capsules Dr. Light left and get an armor upgrade in the level it's hidden in. Want a more powerful X-Buster? Find its Dr. Light capsule. Head bash ability? Light capsule. But the most important light capsule has to be the leg upgrade, which allows you to dash. It's not even hidden as it's in plain sight in Chill Penguin stage, unless you're playing the PSP remake. You can also start the game with a reasonably low amount of health, but hidden among the 8 levels are 1 heart container per level, and 4 sub-tanks hidden in 4 of the 8 levels. Exploration is the key to beating this game, and while I had my reservations against it on my first playthrough, thinking, how is it a more advanced peacemaking android has less health than his predecessor? But it is what it is, and I don't really mind it upon further playthroughs, although I recommend using a guide for those hard to find heart containers and sub-tanks, as well. For some stages, it's obvious where some things are hidden, but other levels have some really obscure collectibles like Armored Armadillo's sub-tank location. How were you supposed to know that on your first playthrough? Oh well. And some collectibles require a power-up from a defeated enemy, like if you want the heart container in Chill Penguin stage, you'll need Flame Mammoth's power-up to do that. But when you do get them, the game just has a new layer of fun added to it. What I like about the sub-tanks is that, unlike the classic Series E tanks, the sub-tanks are reusable and fill up whenever you collect health items at full health. And you can basically use them as life reserve when fighting a tricky boss that just eats away your health, or even within the stages themselves, although I personally never felt the need to use one within a stage. As for controls, they're pretty solid and well implemented for X's abilities. If we're going by default controls, A dashes, B jumps, and Y fires your X Buster. My favorite addition is the L and R buttons, allowing you to switch your abilities in the game, which you couldn't do in the classic Mega Man games unless you played them on the Anniversary Collection, if I'm not mistaken. If you played the original Mega Man games, you had to press select to bring up the menu, which paused the game, and then you had to select the ability you wanted at the moment. Still use the menu if, say, you don't want to waste any in-game time when selecting a weapon, like during a boss battle, or if you're that much of a classic Mega Man purist where you have to have the menus instead of the new convenient L and R buttons, but I don't know why you would want that. But as for the design of the levels, it's very focused on combat. I mean, there are ladders and walls to climb, but there are many areas that have enemies that'll stand in your way. And depending on the robot masters you fight, some that are defeated will result in changing another stage. Like if you fought Chill Penguin before Flame Mammoth, the lava in Flame Mammoth stage will turn to ice that you can walk on, making it easier for you to, well, not die in the level. If you defeat Storm Eagle, his airship will crash into Spark Mandrill stage, causing frequent blackouts within Spark Mandrill stage, which may hinder your progress if you're a noob, to which I'm not. And the last change, if you defeat Launch Octopus, Sting Chameleon stage will be flooded with water, which will actually help you get a heart piece. And while this feature is well thought out, I prefer my stages to remain untouched like in Mega Man X2, and this feature does reappear in Mega Man X3 and X6, especially in X6, and it's not fun there unlike X1 and X3, trust me. Now the last major change from the classic series to the X series is the story. Rather than have the light-hearted story involving Dr. Wily trying to take over the world, and Mega Man is going to have to stop him, X starts out with a dialogue from Dr. Light talking about how he wants X to be the defender of humanity in the future, but even beyond Dr. Light's death, X will have to spend decades in a capsule in hopes of X learning morality and such. X has finally awakened in 21XX, long after Dr. Light's death, and he is found by Dr. Kane, who uses X's design to make Reploids, which are like robots but they have human-like emotions. They're probably called Reploids because they're androids that replicate human emotions, with flaws and all. But unfortunately, these Reploids could be corrupted by the Maverick virus, and now the evil Sigma, who was once part of the Maverick Hunters, is now leader of the Mavericks and deemed humanity inferior and basically wants to destroy them all. But X and his more experienced partner, Zero, step in to fight Sigma's rebellion since they're part of a group known as the Maverick Hunters. Who is Zero, who is Sigma, and where did the Maverick virus come from? You'll find out in later entries, most notably Mega Man X4. They won't explain those things in this game because it is the first entry and all. They didn't explain that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father in Star Wars A New Hope, now did they? You also encounter Vile, a rogue Maverick who either works for Sigma or is on his own. Either way, he doesn't like X or Zero that much. He's cool and all, but he didn't get much exposition during his encounters to the point where when he gets defeated in Sigma Fortress 1, I just shrug. Even after the action he commits, I was supposed to care, but I just couldn't. Same with Zero. I thought he was a cool character, and I really liked his mentor attitude towards X in the 3 total times we meet him, but what happens to him in the end, I was like, oh no, that's too bad. I kinda liked him. So he didn't get much screen time, which is odd because Zero would have been implemented much better if he was talking with X in between missions. I mean, X is kind of inexperienced on the field, and it would have been nice if Zero gave him some tips and tricks in between missions as a mentor kind of figure, but I didn't mind his appearance. I just wish he got more screen time, that's all. By the way, did you know the design for Zero was originally meant for Mega Man X himself? I don't know why they changed it, but Inafune obviously had a liking to Zero, and that's probably why Zero has his own Game Boy Advance series called Mega Man Zero. The only three-dimensional character in this entire game is Mega Man X himself. Unlike his predecessor, Rock, he was built with free will and yet has Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics programmed into him, but I guess this time it's just a suggestion and not a kill switch. Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics? Anyone? Guess I was the only one who's read iRobots. But anyways, the 3 laws of robotics basically states that robots cannot harm humans, they must always protect humans, and they also have to have self-preservation instincts. And guess which one of the 3 the Mavericks use and ignore the other 2 rules? The self-preservation instincts. But the reason why I feel X is a 3-dimensional character is because he started the game as a rookie who couldn't even take down Vile, to ending the game as a hero but has encountered a few losses. He's evolved as a character, and I just really like that about X. And as for Sigma, well, he's a villainy villain. No reason he finds humans inferior. He's just a machine and that's just what he does. You'll learn why in Mega Man X4, but in this game, he's just a villain who does bad things, so go stop him, save the world. But overall, is Mega Man X really the best Mega Man in the franchise? I know, how dare I question the brilliance of Mega Man X1? Well, I have a few things to say about it. If you've never played a Mega Man game before, which there are a surprising amount of people who are in that current category, or at least never played a Mega Man X game before, the general consensus is that Mega Man X is the best, not only in the X series, but also the entire franchise. And if you either follow me on Twitter or watch my top 10 SNES games list, you won't be surprised that I prefer X2 over X1. Which is strange since many say that that game is just okay at best. I disagree and you'll see why next week. I did notice with all the weapons and bosses you fight, Mega Man X1 is kind of a retelling of the original Mega Man game for the NES. Bad guy does bad things, Mega Man is born to stop said bad guy. Instead of Cutman, Iceman, and Fireman, and Electman, we have Boomer, Kwanger, Chill Penguin, Flame Mammoth, and Spark Mandrill. Also, the boss rush is similar to how it was done in Mega Man 1, where instead of fighting all the robot masters again in one room, each one is spread throughout the various stages of the castle/fortress stages. Although I think X handled that aspect better because I hated how I had to refight 4 robot masters in the last Wily stage that depleted my health, and then I had to fight Dr. Wily, who had a 2-phase boss battle. Luckily they didn't do that for Sigma, as he has his own stage, and that's how Mega Man 1 should have done it for Dr. Wily. Might as well call it Maverick Wars: The X Awakens, am I right? I do agree that the soundtrack is awesome, although because I watch YouTuber The Completionist, I can't help but think, isn't that a 16-bit version of the Completionist theme? Nothing wrong with that. I guess there is no denying that the soundtrack is awesome. The intro stage, Zero's entrance, Storm Eagle stage, the boss theme, the ominous Sigma theme, and my favorite being Sigma Fortress 1. They're all great soundtracks. Most of them have a hard rock orchestra to convey the feel of instant action, and the music does tone down the rock during certain parts of the game, like once in Sigma's lair before the final battle, you hear this ominous soundtrack playing in the background, which is honestly a bit unsettling. Not only that, but the ending theme where the text talks about what was lost and how the war is far from over. Spoiler alert, there's going to be other games in the series. That song is rather melancholy, and I definitely feel like I didn't get that much of a happy ending in the end of X1. But that's the major difference between Mega Man X and the classic series. No matter what you do, there is no happy ending. Of course, this type of ending was shown in Mega Man 3 and 5, but at least Mega Man had some victory to celebrate. X and Mega Man X1? No, you beat Sigma, but the Maverick virus is still rampant and you can only take comfort in living to fight another day. I won't spoil the exact ending, but you'll have to watch it yourself and feel what I felt during that sequence. or in your case, pay $8 for each of the sequels that's released on Virtual Console. Because that pretty much spoils the fact that Mega Man X is not the end. This is only the beginning of the Maverick Wars. Overall, Mega Man X is an excellent game. I won't say it's my favorite game, and I honestly prefer even some of the classic Mega Man games despite the improvements. Because for those games, I didn't have to backtrack for some of the collectibles, although it's not like I had to backtrack much in X1, but if you're working for the Hadouken, it is really annoying to get. Basically die 4 times on Armored Armadillo's last minecart section after collecting the heart pieces, powers, and sub-tanks in the game, and then the 5th time jump off to the top and you'll get the Hadouken. Not worth it in my opinion, but again, it's an optional side quest, just like getting all the collectibles, but I prefer not having to backtrack at all to get certain items, like in Mega Man 4 and 5, as well as 6, although in that game you don't have to backtrack only if you start on the levels that don't contain the beat letters. You'll see what I mean in June. But this game, solid 94 out of 100. Go check out the Super Nintendo classic. It does meet the high praise it gets, and I can see why it's someone's favorite game of all time. It's personally not mine, but that's just me. I'll see you all next week for my review of Mega Man X2, my favorite Mega Man game of all time. Heck, probably my favorite Capcom game of all time. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to stay awesome.